Greetings and welcome to another episode of Super Speak Sundays. I'm your host, James the Orator. As you know, this is a space where we just identify ordinary people who have gone on to do extraordinary things. And as you know, we always are bringing the best and brightest talent to the show. And our guest today falls no shorter than a midget with no legs, or somebody who maybe as tall as me, but hey, he is no shorter than anybody else that we've brought on. We're really excited to have him on today. When you think about transportation and you think about being able to get from one place to another, this gentleman has he's revolutionized the business of limousines, high-end transportation. He's been able to use his business for so many dignitaries and folks who are what we call, I guess, in the know. Let me introduce you to our guest today. Tyrone Cardwell was born in Kankakee, Illinois, and raised in Monmouth, Illinois, a small town south of Chicago. After high school, he attended college, earned a bachelor's degree in hospitality management. To date, he has over 12 years of managing restaurants and hotels. Over the last 20 years, he has been in the transportation industry, where 16 of those years he has been an entrepreneur. Tyrone currently owns and operates Integrity Limousine Services, LLC. Since the inception of his limo business, he has always instilled passion for customer service in everything he does. He decided to name his company Integrity because of the way he envisioned running his business and servicing customers on a day-to-day basis. He believes that people are always before profits. Ladies and gentlemen, help me welcome to this stage Mr. Tyrone Cardwell.
Hey, how's it going?
Tyrone, how you doing? How you doing today?
I'm good, Jimmy. Good to see you.
Thanks. Yeah, good seeing you too. And thanks for joining us today on Super Speak Sundays. We are just, always excited to bring, entrepreneurs and people who are doing great things in the community. And of course, you have proven that, coming from a small town in Illinois and being able to establish something great is a beautiful thing. As we always do before we get started with the show, we always start with the quote. And we want to get your quote here. And the quote says, now I'm going to read the quote and then your first reaction to the quote after we finish reading. Okay. So the quote says, "I've learned that people will forget about what you said. People will forget about what you did, but people will never forget about how you made them feel." And that's a quote by Maya Angelou. What are your thoughts?
Oh, great. If you could look at my office in the background, I have many quotes and signs up there to inspire and remind me of the mindset that I need to be in when I'm doing things business related and personal. But over my shoulder, other side, opposite camera, that same quote is there by Maya Angelou. That's her in that picture right there.
Okay.
That's the exact same quote.
Same quote, huh?
Yeah, so that resonates with me, and I can't remember where I was when I heard it or saw it, or someone said it to me at a seminar or speech or something. But yeah, it's really true in everything we do, not only in business but in personal. And the customer is the same. They may not remember what specific thing we did as a business that made them feel comfortable or they got value from what they bought from us.
Right.
And so we try to, do everything. We try to mimic our personal into business because it's a personal effort that we try to do to make it run, Right. So I think that quote speaks volume to the character of the individual and that relationship. Yeah. So it for me, for one thing, it just said you can't name specifically what the thing is that made you feel good about that person, but when they see them, this is a good person. It's a good feeling when I see that person, that business, or whatever it can be. So it's an honest and true quote that people don't realize. You do automatically, yeah.
Yeah, sure. In a previous episode, we had the brand master Marvin Rhodes, and he talked a lot about personal brands and what
Mhm.
that means for our businesses. When you go back to your childhood, what messages were communicated to you to help you build a foundation for providing excellent service?
Um, Probably, my father, my grandfather, just doing things um, to the best of your abilities and with good intent, no ill intent, and just making sure that you get your money's worth when you're selling something. You provide
Right,
that to people to get their money's worth, and don't be afraid to go above and beyond. And
right,
don't count every situation or every favor with the expectation of getting something in return.
right,
Do it out of the kindness of your heart and because you can. And when you translate that in the business, you have to be profitable, or you won't be there for the next person who needs your expertise or your commitment to excellence. So just balancing the books on that, but making sure you do right by others. They would say be seen and not heard.
right.
Sometimes that is true, but as we start to grow, you want to be seen out there in today's society, and let people know you're out there. But I think just the sound foundation resonated with us as a family. Is the family name was always to be reputable, was always
That's
to
right.
do things to honor your not only your family,
Right.
because you're representing other people, not just yourself.
That's
And it's
right.
the same in business. You're not only representing the company, you're representing the people who work within that company and
Right.
the people who have used you in the past, as a reference. So for me, I think early on, it just resonated with me just to do things the right way. And then remember how you were treated um, as a customer of
Right.
a business, so what things
So
that
important.
bothered you and what things did you like about it, and carry that into your own when you're able to do so, like I've been
Right.
fortunate to do. But yeah, like I said, whether it be mistreated on discriminatory situations or value of money, not having enough money to be in the store,
Sure.
or things like that. So for me, I took all of those, whether it be conscious or subconscious, probably into my life every day. And my passion that's get you through the downtime is reflecting back on those reasons why you got in it to begin with, because a
Right.
lot of people say, hey, we got to make money. And I understand that, but I didn't get into it for money. I mean, it's been beneficial to me,
Right.
not always, but especially on the onset. But we didn't get in it with the attitude to get rich. We just wanted to have the control to choose our own destiny and what we decide to do based off what we believed was important, not someone
Right.
telling us what we had to do. So that's why we did it, and that's what helped us, I think, get started. And we didn't advertise for the first year and a half. I think we were in business.
Wow.
It was just strictly word of mouth, and then people just
Wow.
calling us and saying, "Hey, we heard you guys do this type of transportation, airport
Mhm.
runs, corporate stuff. I have a situation. Can you help me with?" And we said, "Well, sure, not a problem."
Right.
So it worked out.
Wow. Wow. When you think about the foundation that your father and your grandfather laid, those things you can't, it's priceless. You can't buy those things. And so
True. Yeah.
once you receive that foundation, you went on to get a degree in hospitality management. What was so important about that? I mean, because obviously there's something that happened early on that forced you, not really forced you, but that intrigued you to
Right.
further
Or
explore.
guided me to that way.
Absolutely.
Um, you know, I think for me, I needed something to do to stay out of trouble. I
Hmm.
wasn't ever really in trouble and stuff like that as far as getting arrested. And, I had a good circle of friends. And
Right.
I think some misfortunate situations happen to some of the people around me. But for me, I needed to do something. My father always said, hey, you need to do something, because
Hmm.
I was just content getting a 9 to 5 like he did. My grandfather was the entrepreneur in the family. My father he went to work in a factory for 35 plus years,
Right.
Armstrong floor tile, and retired, and then we were comfortable, we did okay. Like I said, I wanted something more, something different. I felt I needed to get out of the environment that I was in
Hmm.
and put myself in a spot where there was more opportunities for me to do things, whether it be more resources available or more things to me. And I just said, hey, you know what? I think I'm gonna go to school. I wanted to do business related classes, and this program, you know, for hospitality, kind of gravitated towards that just from a service aspect. I always had a passion for helping people do things.
Sure,
When I was with my grandfather, we're doing landscaping and stuff like that, and cutting grass, and he did a couple other businesses, delivering some coals and stuff way back in the day. But he always had a service mentality, and I observed that as a youth, and then saying, hey man, how nice is it to, you feel good being able to help people. So hospitality to me felt like it was going to be a service related field,
right?
That it wouldn't feel like work. It would be a common, feel for me just to do it.
Right.
So that's why I went on and school was great. I don't think I got the most of my, I guess, knowledge or experience in what I did through school. It readied me for the real world.
Right.
It educated me on certain processes and certain things and about business itself, which has been an advantage. But the majority of my experience, and I think my advantage of preparing myself for this position that I've ended up in and gravitated towards, is the street experience, being out there working in that industry. So we worked in hospitality while we were in college, not only as an internship towards the final part of the career of the education, but throughout the whole entire process, just to pay the bills, pay the rent. We chose fields, which was suggested to us by an instructor, a professor, to go ahead and work in the industry, even though you may find an opportunity to make more money in a different field. You really want to take that experience, and that's going to be the value that you get long term. It's hard because immediately you need cash, so if it means working in an industry that's not hospitality related, but it pays more to pay my rent. And some of the kids decided to do that, and I don't think it ruined them, but I think they didn't get that advantage.
Absolutely right.
Because I think we excelled greater in our industry because of our perception and our experience of what we've had before, that others people didn't have.
Yeah, definitely. And so you go get this degree, and then you manage restaurants for, it was about 20 years.
For a long time.
For a good time. And so and this is going to help somebody who's watching this. And so at what point, as you go into work, you're on this treadmill of life, you're going to work, you're managing. I mean, you pretty much know what the expectations are each day. At what point do you say, I think I want to start a business?
Man, I can't remember the point. It's always been a seed that was planted even when I was in school.
Were you was there some frustration? Because I heard you earlier. I heard you earlier mention that, that you wanted to be in control of your destiny. But what was going on in your life at that point where you said, you know what, I better explore doing something for myself?
Okay. So the seed has always been planted. I think what you allude to is, when did I start watering it enough to where I really wanted it to grow?
Right.
So working in restaurants is it's a long day. It's a long schedule. It's a lot of stuff, a lot of greatness coming in with people celebrating stuff for their families and things like that. But for me, it was the corporate lifestyle of doing things on such a grander scale. And I understood why it had to be done that way because I had a business background. But I didn't have the control that I wanted to have to do the things that I wanted to do. And rightfully so, I wasn't the one that was liable for my decisions. It was the corporation that I worked for. So, and what do I mean by that? I mean, the way you treat people, manage people, so many times it's by numbers. And the reality of the situation is the total experience, sometimes can't be calculated. So when you're running labor in restaurants, it's cut, cut the hours, cut the manpower. So we're making profits, and it provides a stressful environment because you're working understaffed almost all the time to accomplish a goal that only benefits the restaurant or the company. So at some point in time, and as a manager, you're expected to be there almost open to close. Every holiday, every weekend, everything. So for me, it was just, I can't remember how old I was, in my 20s, late 20s. I just said, man, I don't want to wake up, man, and find out, 20 years from now that I haven't really done anything that I wanted to do. So I just said, hey, I talked to my guys back in Indy and my brother and a friend of mine from college. And I said, hey, I'm moving back, man. I really think I want, my kids. I had kids at the time, or 2 and probably 3. And I had, family here. I wanted the cousins to all be together in the same city and do that. And I wanted to get into business. So I came back and we talked about it, and we were all in hospitality, except my brother had gravitated out to logistics. But my roommate in college, we just decided, hey man, let's go ahead and go after it. And we did some research, and Integrity was born.
Wow. Integrity. And so not only do you have Integrity Limousine, and I want to come back to that, but you also had another contract working with a major employer where you provided transportation. So it wasn't just luxury limousines, but you also did some other things here in the city.
Oh yeah, we did some shuttle bus stuff. We talked about, you and I talked about a lot of stuff. I started a construction company back in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
The limo stuff was up and down, really wasn't that profitable. I mean, it was okay, but it just wasn't putting in the return like I wanted. So you try to diversify your portfolio. And we have presented an opportunity to start a construction company and help manage and facilitate some repairs and building maintenance type remodel stuff for the commercial side of the business. Mm-hmm. So being in business and management, I formed the company, and we started working and through relationships, built contacts and started doing stuff there. We're not breaking any records on that side either, but we're having a good time. We're doing some things. But during this relationship between the construction and the limo, I was presented an opportunity to transport construction workers to and from job sites. So we had already bought a larger bus, like a military transport bus, a 44 passenger. So we started hauling construction workers from the parking lot where they parked to start their day to the job sites.
Wow.
And that grew to where we were running upwards of 4 of those buses. I ended up buying 3 more.
Yeah.
And it was busy. But, man, we made a good amount of money, and it allowed me to pay off all my debt. And I wouldn't say it ruined me, but it kind of unmotivated me to put up with the stress again, because I've done it for so long. And your brother and I talk about that a lot. He's got his foot on the gas, and I got my foot on the clutch. Either I'm going to downshift or upshift. I'm not for sure. But I don't have any obligations to the man to continue to answer to those monthly payments. So it's awarded me the peace of mind to make decisions even more freely and off of personal than financial. So, but like I said, I'm not rich. I don't have a house in the Bahamas or nothing like that. But I'm
it's coming though. It's coming.
Well, maybe, maybe. But I'm in a good spot.
Yeah, good. When you talk about the and I want to transition back to the limo business. So who is your client? What does your clients look like? When I say look like because I mean you have different levels, of course, of translation. You have party buses where people tear them up, and then you have.
So luckily, we have not had that happen, but we have a diverse clientele base and we have a diverse fleet. I don't have the fleet. So what we did early on is we said we marketed ourselves to the clientele that we wanted to go after for certain punch points and reasons. One of the reasons were we wanted to capitalize on our return on our investment. We wanted to be able to not have to replace equipment often. So and no offense to the retail side of the business, the bachelor parties and the bachelorette parties. We call them the drunk fest, guys getting together. I mean, that's a good time. People have a good time. You just have to be able to control and protect your assets at the same time. And so many times that it's hard to do and train, chauffeurs and drivers to be able to recognize the warning signs. So we opted not to go that route.
Okay.
So we say, hey, we're in corporate, we're in business. We're going to cater to hotels and business travelers. Okay. So our fleet reflected that. We bought new equipment. We bought elegant higher end equipment and catered to that only. Our prices were a little higher because we put a lot into it and had a lot of passion. So it kind of deterred a lot of those, one-off, let's go out and get drunk and get a limo bus and party to no end. And they couldn't afford it, or they didn't choose to put that much money into that night. Wasn't important to them enough to pay that kind of money. And we were okay with that. So we all didn't get a paycheck directly for some years. We all had a 9-to-5, and we did this as a startup. But so we have clients from every spectrum. So majority of it's corporate and business. We will do weddings, we will do bachelor and bachelorette parties, but very few of those people will pay the price. But high-end entertainers, you make dignitaries and stuff come to town. But for us, we got that from our name being out there through word of mouth. So we didn't advertise on a certain site, say, hey, we'll take the entertainers and the celebrities and the singers and all that stuff. It just some of the promoters, the reputable promoters in town, had a couple of situations where they needed transportation, and they didn't want to just call anybody. They said, hey, let's call Tyrone. We know he's done some stuff. We see him out and about. He's got nice equipment. He's very respectable. He operates with integrity, so let's call him. So they took a chance, and we knocked it out the park. We weren't ooh and ah about the celebrity and stuff. We were, that's their job, just like it's our job.
That's right.
We treat them like a regular person. And we've asked some of the athletes here in town and stuff, for the teams, why do you choose to call us personally and ride? And they said, man, one of the reasons is you guys are real. Because you treat us like every person would want to be treated, and you don't hound us for autographs, you don't hound us for stuff. There's no hidden agendas, things like that, and we're not afraid to have conversation back the other way, not only from celebrities but from customers, and just giving them a no. For example, we had a guy, athlete, man, great athlete, really, really known, and we had too much to drink. He got in the SUV. And he's with his group of friends, and he steps on the center armrest in between the seats and jumps in the back to the third row.
Okay.
I saw this, and I'm like, man, what is this dude doing? Putting his foot, you're paying, get your foot off the furniture.
Yeah, exactly.
So, this is my livelihood, and I don't want my stuff tore up. So I didn't say anything so when they got dropped off, they all got out. I pulled them aside and said, hey, man, I know your mother taught you better than that, man. I don't appreciate you stepping on my armrest like that, but I know y'all having a good time, and it was probably the alcohol. But I just want to ask you politely to please try to focus on respect when you get in and out of my equipment, man. So it lasts longer. I said you wouldn't, because I knew he had an Escalade in the driveway when I picked him up. I said you wouldn't like it if I was riding with you and I stepped in your Escalade and jumped in the back like that, stepped my dirty feet on your seat and then on the armrest and dove to the back instead of lifting the seat up.
Exactly.
He said, Ty, you're right, man. I apologize, man. I apologize. And then the next day he called me. He said, man, I'm going to be riding with you for life, man, because you took the time not to embarrass me. You also weren't afraid to challenge me and say, hey, man, I know you're a high-end guy, but we have some basic fundamentals that we would appreciate you follow. And it was great. We've been friends ever since. Yeah,
that's great, man. That's great. I want people to see your fleet, some of the things, some of the four wheels you have in your fleet. So kind of walk us through each one that we show. This is talk a little bit about this one.
Sure. This is our most popular bus. It's a 24 passenger executive limo style, and limo vehicles are described as limos based off the interior. So when it has that perimeter seating where you can see face to face, that's limo, true limousine. Some people say, hey, I want a limo. There's limo buses, limo cars, limo sprinters, Mercedes sprinters. But for us in the industry, when you order one or request one, if you say limo interior, we know you want it to have perimeter seating. So this bus has perimeter seating, and it also has 2 tables up front with 4 high back reclining chairs around them, more of an executive feel. And people like to play cards, sit on it, converse back and forth. Then there's we call it the VIP room or the champagne room in the back. So this has the U-shaped perimeter seats in it. But this bus is by far our most demanded vehicle. And if supply wasn't so low, I'd probably have a couple more of those in the fleet.
Okay. Now in terms of having someone to drive these, now, do you need a CDL to drive this one, or so that one? Okay.
Yep, that one you need a CDL, at least a Class B. So your typical school bus drivers, usually your fire truck drivers stuff, you have to have a passenger endorsement on that CDL to haul people. Okay. You can haul the Amazons and the freight all you want, but they won't allow you to haul people. The boxes don't talk back. It require a little more finesse. So you got to have the passenger or the 2 for hire if it's a non-CDL, because we have some smaller buses. But that particular bus, because of the weight and the size and the number of passengers that it hauls, requires a CDL. So it's 16 or more, counting the driver, requires a CDL.
Okay. And let's move to this next one. So this is the same bus, correct?
Same bus, just different angle. That's a good side shot. It doesn't really have a lot of luggage space in that back door. It's a little bit because there's a flat screen TV there, but that's the good view of what that bus looks like. Nice air conditioner unit on top to keep your ice cold. And that's one of the things we pride ourselves on, is man, we spend the money to make sure our equipment is maintained,
Right.
so you're not sweating in that wedding and not getting.
That's right. That's right. All right. Then we have now. Is this the this
Yes.
is the
So this is
interior?
the interior of that bus.
Okay.
You got the tables on the left and there's a table on the right. We set that cooler down there for extra ice. There's perimeter seating on either side, and on that armrest you have outlets to plug in and also USB ports to charge your telephones at every armrest. Cup holders. There's underneath storage. You can put, your purses and stuff underneath, or up top, what we call those airplane luggage compartments or motor coach compartments. You can put all your purses in. And that's nice because people aren't tripping over your stuff, or if something gets spilled, your nice coach bag's not ruined. But in the back where that TV, that logo is the television. And then there's a bar below that with ice and stuff for you to put your waters and drinks and stuff in. There's room for you to bring coolers, but that's the exact bus that you showed with the interior that I was talking about.
The white bus. Okay.
The white one.
And then so this is what?
Different angle. Just
different
looking
angle,
to the front. Better angle, actually. You can see going to the driver's area, and there's a divider up front so that you can close it. People like to think once you close the divider, now we can't see you, but we can hear you. It's not soundproof. So a lot of times they don't realize that.
Okay. And then this is,
oh yeah, that's our mini. That's our mini limo bus. It's a black bus on the outside. I don't know if you have an outside picture, but the interior is the similar layout. The table's on the right. This one didn't come with a table on the left, but it has the 4 chairs with a more open format, so you can converse back and forth. When I bought it, both seats face forward like a shuttles. So I turned the first set around backwards so you could face each other, be a little bit more of an intimate conversation. But the perimeter is the same setup. It's just a smaller version. So it's got the perimeter seating around the side. It's got cup holders. The flat screen TV is a little smaller, but it's on the back. USB connections on the stereo or auxiliary cord to play the other one had Bluetooth capabilities. This one just has the auxiliary cord. But it has that overhead luggage. I know it's kind of a dark, but up top it's nice. People love it. You can put your belongings up top. And get them out of the way. It has another spot for a bar behind the seat on the right. You can, put some ice and water and some drinks. And on the left, there's a drawer that slides out for alcohol and things like that, or whatever beverages you want to bring.
Wow. And so are both of these units, did you get them custom made, or this is something that that they make them and then you just go and pick it up? I mean,
sure. There's a lot of industries now that will make certain vehicles, that fabricate, different types of vehicles. So this is another one of those vehicles that there's an industry that makes these types of vehicles. So we didn't have to buy a bus, take it to somebody and design it. They already have what we call like a cookie cutter approach to what the demand typically is for that industry. So this was a Ford. The first one was a Ford F550 diesel. Okay. So the manufacturer bought it from Ford, and then they converted it and added that back half to it, like an RV or whatever, what have you, and be made. So they did all that stuff, and we were turnkey, just showed up and signed our life away and put some money down, and we took it. And the same with the black one. So there's different manufacturers, but I will tell you the quality of the manufacturer really, really makes a difference on the longevity of the return on that asset. I'd always encourage people. You don't always get what you pay for. Sometimes you overpay, but do your research and don't be afraid to pay a little bit more if you can afford it now, or even if you can't, figure out a way to make it happen, because it will save you in the long run. Sometimes your mindset is short term, but it costs you so much money long term, you can never get ahead. So if you can make in the get go, your reputation is solid, your breakdowns are going to be less. I mean, new equipment breaks down, but look at the longevity of what you're trying to accomplish. And and if you're in it just for a couple, and some people for 2 years will flip a vehicle and then get another one. But you'll start to know the fit and finish, the trim on the inside, things like that don't last as long because of the abuse or the type of runs that you're doing, So we choose not to do a lot of that riffraff stuff, man, because this is my livelihood. It's got to last, as long as I can make it last, without having to, go negative into the return on investment because they got to replace my equipment because it didn't hold up. So, and like like most of our vehicles have two air conditioner units, like that little mini one. It's a smaller bus. It can be powered off one unit. But this manufacturer, and they had it, and it had 2 units. It was a little bit more expensive. But the nice thing is, and Murphy's Law, things will happen. If the air conditioner goes out on a hot day, chances of both of them going out is rare, but it can happen, but rare. So
That's
you at
right.
least will have at least one air conditioner running. When both of those air conditioners are running, man, there's like an ice box in there. So for us, we've
Wow.
had a
Wow.
situation where one wasn't blowing as cold, but the other one was. So the customer wasn't affected, and then we went and got it fixed. But if you have a unit that has one AC unit and that one AC unit goes bad, then the whole bus is hot for the
Absolutely.
remainder of the time. So that's little things like that that we thought about when we bought it.
Right.
Would be pluses for us, and it's worked out. Now, I wasn't always lucky on every decision that I made. I'll tell you
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely.
But that's just one thing.
Right. You know, I got to ask you this question. With the onset of Uber and Lyft and all these other,
Sure.
businesses that have taken some of the market share in transportation, how has this impacted the limousine business overall? From a
Yes, that's a great question, and it hurt. It put a hurt on the industry big time. It was a disruptor that we weren't expecting.
okay.
Everyone sat back and said, taxi cabs are taxi cabs.
Mm-hmm.
We're not worried about taxi cabs because it's a different genre. It's a different clientele. And then Uber came out. So all of our majority of our runs are airport transfers.
Okay.
And even in this industry, majority of the runs, depends on if you're in a destination location, but or corporate travel or just families going to and from the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Most onesie twosies are corporate guys. Uber came in and said, hey, you no longer have to pay for the car to go to the concert the whole entire time.
Yeah.
Why pay for that time in between?
Right.
So just get a quick taxi cab, basically ride there and back at the end of the night. And that's convenient. So on the onset, it turned it upside down. Vehicles stayed idle.
Yeah.
We weren't heavy on pickup and drop offs.
Okay.
The value-based consumer, Uber was wonderful, but it affected us. Even our higher end clientele said, hey, why should I pay Tyrone to take me to the airport? So what we ended up doing is, like I said, I had a construction. So if the construction wasn't there during that time frame, the limo probably wouldn't have survived. And a lot of companies went out of business because of the Ubers and the Lyfts.
Right.
But they were so heavily dependent upon that type of business model, they didn't have anything to fall back on. So the construction helped me. And then a lot of my clients stayed with me because of the service level.
Sure. Right.
And then a lot of times, when Uber first started out, and even now, they don't have larger buses. They have smaller sedans and SUVs. But that wasn't the whole mix. I had a couple of those, but it wasn't the mix of my profit. So you might say 60 to 70% of my trips may be one-offs, airports type Uber style runs. But the majority of my profit margins are on the larger limo buses. So I may only do 20% of volume in those limo buses, but they're making up 60 to 70% of my profit.
Okay.
So I make a lot more money running buses than I do sedans. And you don't make money on airports. You do it to get you to the other stuff, or just because you can. Sometimes you can lose money on it because you're empty coming back. But it disrupted the industry as a whole. And a lot of people, and I subscribe to a lot of owner groups and stuff, and a lot of guys are fighting, lobbying to get ruling because they didn't have to do the things that we had to do. We had to carry at minimum $1.5 million of liability insurance on every vehicle. Now, once you get into 16 or more, you have to include the whole fleet at $5 million.
Okay.
So for us to operate at a $5 million liability, and then the government, or regulations don't require these Ubers to do the same. You can just turn on an app in your personal car and take someone to the airport.
Right.
And there's no insurance increased cost to you. And sometimes, there was incidences where insurance didn't cover. Now I think they've transitioned to that. But when they first came on, they weren't held to the same standard. So there wasn't a level playing field. So people started crying about that and complaining. And I said, hey, man, I understand you got to fight the good fight, but focus on what you're doing. We focused on what we did well and went after it. We didn't sit back and cry the blues. We said, hey, we got to get out here and get after it. So early in the mornings, late at nights, our customers that used Uber were still coming back to us because they didn't trust an Uber to get there early in the morning. This is what they tell us.
That's right.
And they didn't trust being picked up by Uber at 11 o'clock at night at the airport and going home. And one of our clients had a house in Florida. He got robbed. And when he played the security cameras, it was the Uber driver that took him to the airport car that came back and robbed him because he knew he wasn't home.
Right.
You know, you
Wow.
got to trust the people, because that your house is the most vulnerable at that time, because they knew you took them to the airport
That's
and the
right.
house was empty. So he went back, you know. So
Right.
like I said, our trust level is different, and I really appreciate that, and don't take advantage of that situation. We've had clients,
Right.
one client in the car particular, I got to the airport in the limo and I hear him talking. I remember, but I don't know if I did or not. They said, Tyrone, I don't think I turned the teapot off.
Oh,
I said,
wow.
man, I can't remember either, because I was in the house.
Yeah.
He said, do we have time to go back? I said, nah, you might miss your flight. He said,
Yeah.
and I had known this guy for years. He said, do you mind going back to my house and checking? I said, not a problem. I'll go back.
Yeah.
So I got back, and he gave me the code. I turned off the alarm. As soon as I turned the alarm off to go in the house, I can hear the pot whistling.
Are you serious?
It was still on the stove. He had an old
Wow.
gas stove. The pot was as red as can be. And I called him because he hadn't boarded the plane yet, but he was in the terminal. And he said, man, is that the pot I hear? I said, yes, man, it's whistling, man. I said,
Yeah.
he goes, it's still on. I said, well, you can tell your wife what you want and say it was off, and we'll call it a day, so you don't
Right,
get in
right,
trouble.
right.
I said, but whatever you want me to do. I said, but yeah, it's still on, man. So I turned it off, got a pot holder, took it off the burner, and then set the alarm and went out the house, and he was on his way. And he said he would have never had an Uber driver do that. You know, so we're in it for the long haul. I think the Ubers are the one-offs and the quickies, but a lot of customers saw value and cheap price where they could get to and from, and it worked. I'm not going to say it didn't, but some customers had a more care and concern for themselves and their safety. And also, we do, I think, a pretty good job of having a strong duty of care. You know, we're making sure that we do the responsible things behind the scenes to protect you. You know, and like I said, hiring good drivers, background check, drug testing people, not overworking people so they're fatigued and tired out driving you around. Like I said, it's just one of those things that we are an extension of you. We try to be a friend on the inside.
That's
before, and I always said that, like you mentioned on the onset, we're people before profits. You know, people before business, people before profits. And you got to make decisions to be profitable, but you don't always have to, you know, make a whole lot of money to do the right thing. You know, sometimes you just, you know, sound like Spike Lee, but you just have to go ahead and just do the right thing, man. Just because you can. And me being in the position that I'm in now has allowed me the freedom to do the things that I want to do, because I want to do it without explaining myself to somebody. Because from a financial standpoint, I do a lot of things that don't make financial sense. It just makes good-hearted sense, you know. Kids for one, donating to, you know, MLK Center or summer camps with the guys at the St. Florine Center when they needed a bus. You know, just those things we do, the COD. I mean, there's things we give back to do because we can, you know. And a lot of people say, oh, man, I wouldn't have done that. Well, that's why you don't own Integrity, and I do.
That's right. You know, there's somebody who's listening to this, and they're thinking about getting in the transportation industry. What would you tell them? I mean, give them some final words about, you know, how to get going, and, you know, some things.
Don't do it. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do it. No, just really. And there are a lot of people that we have helped. You know, my man Kevin at Reserve Car, great company. He was working for another operator at the time, a big company, as a chauffeur, and he was talking about it at the airport. And I said, man, if ever you do, call me. But let's talk. Let's have lunch. Let's see what's the reasons for why you want to do it.
That's right.
And that's in any business, whether it's Touchdown RV, Keith making it like he made it and going after it. You really have to know, what are your reasons for wanting to be in business for yourself?
That's right.
You know, not just because it's cool. And everybody thinks, oh, that's what I want to do, because you and I both know, and Keith and all your people that speak on before me can tell you, it's not all easy. That's right. And there's a lot of risk, and it's great to hear the stories and the encouragements on these podcasts, but there's a downside to it, stuff that a lot of times don't work out. So I would say, if you're going to do it, one, decide early on why you want to do it, and what's your goal and what's important in your driving force in life. Because if you have kids at an early age, it's going to be tough. You know, if your wife's not supportive, it's going to be tough.
That's it.
You know, so you don't want to alienate the people who care about you for the long term of your life, because as you get older, who's going to care for you? It probably won't be your customers. It's going to be your loved ones. So
that's right.
You got to balance it. So I would say also knowing who you are as an individual to handle those challenges and how you're going to be able to deal with that stuff. So But on the onset, I would say just make sure you understand why you want to do it. And then when you decide this is it, Ty, I got all the support, this is what I do, I want to do it, research everything you do. But don't overanalyze it. Sometimes you just got to jump, man, and hope the heck that your skill set will get you through it. And we did that a lot. Financing, if we had to wait for a bank to approve, we would have never got the loan. Then my destiny would have depended upon some guy behind the desk telling me whether or not he wants to loan me the money or not. So we took a conventional approach, but we got it done. But I would say make sure you plan out for the what ifs. So many people leave stuff to chance, and it could hurt you. So and just know what type of clientele you're going after.
That's right. That's important.
You can't be everything to all people,
right?
Especially on the startup. Go after what you think you can do, and if your schedule only allows you to work evenings and weekends, then that's what you're going to have to go after. You might have to go after a limousine and do the evening concerts or the weekend weddings and trips like that.
Right.
Or if you have a schedule where you're working on the weekends and you're off during the week, you might be able to start out with a smaller vehicle and get some support. A lot of people in this industry start out with a sedan or an SUV.
Okay.
And do airports and stuff like that. If you're going to start out small, I recommend getting the SUV first, because you can also do sedan work in the SUV.
Right.
And price it accordingly. And unfortunately, you're not going to make as much money pricing it as a sedan and an SUV, because fuel mileage and everything is a horrible.
Exactly.
With gas right now. So main thing is insurance and protecting your assets and your person. Separate yourself. I would not start it as a sole proprietorship. I would start it as an LLC, S corp or something, just to be able to protect yourself from the liability, not only financially. I think financially they're going to ask you to co-sign everything you do, no matter what. But just from the liability of an accident or something like that, so they don't come back and take your house and stuff like that.
That's right. That's right.
So start out as an LLC. Make sure you structure it. Get an SUV maybe to start out, and network with some other operators. Even though we're in the same business, I don't really feel that I have true competition. And that sounds arrogant, but it's not. It's just the confidence in my ability to do what I have to do. No one can.
Sure.
If my client, if I can't take you to the airport tomorrow and I find somebody to take you, I don't worry about that company stealing you from me.
Right.
Because if I was treating you right from the get-go, there's no reason for you to leave, even if it was cheaper by $10.
Right.
I like to think our relationship is worth more than the $10 or $15 he may be less, because the other things that I do, answer your calls late at night, text message, make it easy.
Absolutely.
And I care about you. But so that's my mindset, is be confident in the abilities that you have to yourself to do it, and always be a sponge and start absorbing stuff, listening to people, make the decisions based off what you believe at that time. You can get information you want from everybody, but if you're making decisions based off what everybody keeps telling you, you're going to be a puppet.
That's right.
Gather that information and value that information, but you as a man or a woman have to make that decision for yourself based off what your gut tells you to do. And if you're wrong, you can sleep easy at night because your gut made the wrong decision than falling victim to somebody telling you some ill-advised information because it didn't work for them, or because what didn't work for them may work for you. Your situation, you have to trust your instincts.
That's it.
As crazy as it may sound, or as unnerving as it may be, trust your instincts, and don't be afraid to really do some homework, educating yourself on the processes that subscribe to industry literature.
Right.
Again, read it with transparency so that you're not being coerced, to buy what's advertised in that literature.
That's right.
Whoever the funds are supporting the magazine, a lot of times the articles are written in their favor, trying to entice you to buy their software. So really, is it good software? No, they just pay more money to advertise in the magazine.
That's it. That's it.
Buy it. So just make sure you're able to trust, go out and develop a relationship with people you think you're going to be able to trust, who have no hidden agendas. I'm here to help you with no expectation of getting anything in return other than I want to see you be successful.
That's right.
Call me,
what, man? Yeah. Hey, call Tyrone. What'd you say? Call Tyrone. You better call Tyrone. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to Tyrone Cardwell from Integrity Limousine Service.
Integrity Limo.
Not only did he give us information about the limousine business, but you gave us a platform for any business, and we appreciate that.
Any business.
Hey, thanks again, man. Super Speak Sundays. It's always a pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for taking the time. This has been in my opinion, it's been a home run. people will definitely benefit from the
I
information
hope
you
so.
shared today.
Yep. And if I'm not the company that can help you, then I'll help find one that's a better fit for you. I mean, I'm here to help people. So,
absolutely. Hey, man, until next time.
Thanks for having me.
We appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Take care of yourself. All right.
All right. Tyrone Cardwell from Integrity Limousine. Boy, he took us on a ride today, didn't he? He took us on a ride. He took us on a journey to being great. And and that's the goal for this whole platform, is to get people in here who can tell you their stories. You can do it too. Don't you believe that? You can do it. There are things that you want to do. You've been hearing these stories. You know what? Matter of fact, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, I guarantee you every story that you hear will be fruitful. It will be worth your while, and you will definitely grow to become the best version of you. I'm your host, James the Orator, here on Super Speak Sundays. One more time. Hey, we love you. Thanks for joining us today. Peace.